Morning guys, I'm recording this session because I've had a few glitches trying to run slideshows and videos through Teams, so I thought I'd pre-record this and pop it onto YouTube, which means you can run it independently of the school system. So I'm going to take you through a slideshow and explain what we're going to be doing with the topic we're going to work on for the next couple of lessons, which is to do with new and emerging technologies. And the first thing I want to do is just show you a slideshow of the kind of thing we're going to be looking at. So new and emerging technologies are things that have allowed things to perhaps develop very quickly. There's lots of things going on at the moment with biometrics in passports and fingerprint technology, facial recognition in phones. There's lots of examples of modern technology going into cars that allows them to be autonomous and drive themselves. And that's basically what the new and emerging technology is about. And in an exam style question, you will quite often get a 6 or an 8 mark discuss type question, which will ask you to talk about an aspect of new and emerging technologies. So I want this lesson really to just look at what some of those things are. Now I'm going to show you a little example of a crowdfunding example and how I would approach this question. So the question would be something along the lines of explain how designers are using new and emerging technologies in the design of new products or to help people in their daily lives. And I'm going to look at crowdfunding as an example, and I'm going to use an example of a product that was on the internet a short while ago. It was 2013 that this hit the internet as a crowdfunding plea. And it was an idea for a folding cycle helmet, which, if you can imagine cycling in, certainly in a business environment in a city, a folding cycling helmet would be really useful because it will collapse, go in someone's business bag or even a laptop bag because it folds quite flat. But obviously at the same time you have to have the structural integrity to be able to sort of withstand a bad crash, I suppose. So the designer here has come up with this idea of this folding hat. He's obviously tested it, made sure it was thoroughly safe and got some recommendations behind him, and then he put it onto social media and tried to get some crowdfunding, and very quickly he managed to get, you can see here with some of the figures, he raised $400,000 from 3,161 different backers. The helmet was sort of priced at this sort of thing. It's actually online. This bottom part, the red helmet, is actually the helmet for sale on the internet. The top picture of the white one is actually the helmet when it was on the crowdfunding page. So this is showing it obviously successfully several years later. I'm just going to take you through sort of how you would think about sort of preparing for this answer. One of the things you'd need to think about is the fact that growth of internet and social media platforms have allowed crowdfunding to actually happen. Without that change in technology, then there's no way that this would have been possible. So really the growth of the internet and these new social media platforms that you're all familiar with has really enabled this to happen. Otherwise it just wouldn't be in existence. It allows you to raise funds on the web and on social media of different types. It also allows you to get to a wide range of people. You don't just have to go to wealthy business owners and try and get them to back like you would see on Dragon's Den. You can get just anybody down the street to look at the idea. Perhaps a keen cyclist thinks, wow, what a great idea, or a small business investment, even a bike shop. They could just put some money in on the outside shot. I suppose that someone will make a big profit from it in the end, and they'll get a small payback from it. Also, very little investment required to gain people's interest. You can set up a channel. You can use Facebook, YouTube. They're all free to use. Very easy to set up and get something going. And obviously there's a lot of sharing goes on social media, which means you can very quickly share the idea to many hundreds or thousands of people. There's also a global market. There's no restriction. It's not a case of you're working in a small workshop in Wiltshire and you need to go and knock on doors and ask for help. Once you set it out there on the internet, people on the other side of the world might see it and think it's a good idea, and you might just get some investment from Australia, America, could be absolutely anywhere. So there's a global market, which means it's just a massive possibility there. There's also online payments. So the minute someone's interested, you can click pay and you've got an instant payment coming through online platforms like PayPal or direct backs transfer through your own bank account. Very secure, very quick, and money comes in rolling in pretty quickly. But you do need to think about the negative aspects of something like this. If you're going to invest in crowdfunding, something you do need to be aware of, there are scams out there. There's scams out there for all sorts of things, so you have to be very careful. It's very difficult on an internet website to really know whether it's a scammer or not, so you might risk losing your money. And then the other option to think about, or the other thing to just be aware of, is that not all ideas are successful, so you are taking a bit of a gamble to put money into something that hasn't really been tested and proven as a good sale item. So you do it because you think it might be successful, but actually there's no guarantee of that. Now, I've bullet pointed there the kind of points I would be trying to jot down after some initial research into the topic of crowdfunding, and then I would put that into a written answer. And I'm going to just show you the kind of length of written answer that you would then produce. So there's a short written answer there. I'm not going to read through it, but it will give you time in your own time just to have a little look at this. It just explains all of those points perhaps in a slightly smoother written form, with a bit of red at the bottom there just to talk about the negatives. So that's how you would look at doing a written answer for something, for example, changing technologies or new and emerging technologies for crowdfunding. Now, I'm going to be asking you to do over the next 2 lessons, so that's today's lesson and on Saturday's lesson, which will be this Friday. I'm going to ask you to do the other topics that are on the next few pages. And the next page, I'm going to ask you to do an example answer on electric vehicles. So explain how designers are using new and emerging technologies in their work and or in the creation of new products. Give examples of products to support your answer. So one of them is going to be the electric vehicles, driverless technology, crash avoidance systems and parking aids, a very hot topic at the moment if you follow anything on the news, certainly with cars like Tesla promoting their self-driving autonomous vehicles. But you've also got drone technology. Some of you might be a bit more interested in that. So there's a second question here which will ask you to write an example on drones as the specific focus. And then on the page that follows, I want you to write me an example on biometrics. And biometrics are things that we're already using around us in our phone technology, in our passport technology, hand geometry, voice recognition. There's lots of things going on, which is very easy to look into. And I'm going to show you where you can find some of this information on the intranet, but also you can look further afield and search well beyond the school internet system. I'm just going to end that slideshow and I'm going to go into Firefly now, and I'm going to show you how you can access that. So if you go into Firefly, I'm going to log in and I'm going to go through to the DT area. And Firefly has had some problems the last few days, as I'm sure you're aware from your other lessons. It seems to be back on track at the moment, but only knows what it will be like tomorrow. I'm going to go into Creative Arts, which is where the design and technology is positioned, and then I'm then going to scroll down to Focus eLearning. And Focus eLearning is what I've shown you in the lesson. It's the online software which covers lots of different topics, and the one we're going to look at is new and emerging technologies. Now, just before I go in there, there's also designers and companies up here, and electric vehicles and companies like Tesla don't really appear in here. There's a mention of them in various categories, but actually if you do look in designers and companies, you'll find Tesla in there if I scroll down at this bottom end here. But you can also, if I just go back, you can also type into the search the resources, and if I type in Tesla and search, it will actually tell me where it is. It's in designers and companies, and I can go straight to the Tesla section, and there's lots of tabs here. I can watch some videos and some explanation which might just be useful in looking for examples or explanations. If I return to the main menu, I'm going to go into new and emerging technologies, and I want to just explain some of the things you need to look at. Each of these tabs will open up to more options, and you can see there's an option for biometrics, virtual and augmented reality, and drones. There's also disruptive technology and the nature of employment. So there's a number of things going on there which could be useful in the writing of your answer. If you look under the other tabs, you might just find something. Obviously the crowdfunding one is in here. We've got environment. Lots of things in there that probably aren't quite as relevant for this particular prep, and then there's some more things here. I don't know whether there's too much in that area there. Systems and production, again, probably nothing in there for this one. So at the moment you'll be looking into certainly the enterprise one potentially, but certainly the industry one to be able to produce an answer. What I would say is don't just rely on the information you find in here. I would look a bit further afield and do some of your own research. This is really excellent bit of software. It explains an awful lot. There's videos you can follow, and when you get to the end of these videos, I'm just going to fast forward this to the end. Once it gets to the end, most of them, as they finish, pop up a lot of other video options.
So what do you think drones will be doing in the future?
I'm just going to wait for that to finish.
And subscribe to Be Amazed. Also, don't forget to check out the amazing video by clicking the box on the screen now.
Just a bit further to the end than I realised, and you can see then you've got other options for videos pop up at the end of each video, and some of them might be more relevant to what you're looking at. So just be aware of that. There's lots of interesting things here. You know, there's this one here which talks about what looks like one of the sinkhole type ideas, and perhaps sending drones down to inspect those. There's also drones in business, and again there'll be more videos at the end of that. Infrastructure inspection, sending drones up to look at high inspection areas and perhaps dangerous cliffs and things like that. And then disaster zone mapping. Those of you that are aware about the people that were trapped in the cave, the children trapped underground, they did use some drone technology, I think, in the rescue of those. So that's where you can do your research, and again biometrics is going to have a similar list of menu there, which might be quite good. And again, when you get to the end of these videos, there will be further options for you to explore if